Have you ever wanted a murder mystery game where instead of just playing the game, it feels like you've actually stepped inside an anime and you're the one uncovering the truth? If that's the kind of experience you've been looking for, then Path of Mystery, A Brush with That might be exactly what you need. Not only does this game present its story in a very cinematic way, but what makes it even more fascinating is that you, as the protagonist, have the ability to enter the past and uncover new clues. But not the kind of past you might expect. Because when you enter those memories, the game shifts into this unique low resolution visual style that lets you experience fragments of the past from someone else's point of view, something I honestly haven't seen in many other games. And the first time that happened, I literally paused for a second because I thought, wait, this is actually such a cool way to investigate a mystery. So in this video, I'll be sharing my experience with the game and whether this mystery adventure is worth playing. But I can already say that if you love murder mystery games or anime like I do, you're probably going to have a lot of fun with this one. And thank you so much to Axis Games for providing me with a game key and giving me the chance to sharing this amazing game with all of you. Welcome to Heartfluff XO Cozy Corner, a cozy little space where the magic of storytelling brings you comfort. Before that, if you love visual novel story-rich or otome games, or if you want to learn Japanese with otome games and experience some heart-fluffy romance, I suggest you to subscribe to this channel because you are in the right place. Path of Mystery, A Brush with That takes you back to a 30-year-old murder case involving a famous artist named Suiryu Uchida. He was brutally murdered while painting, stabbed with a knife, and left with a paintbrush stuck in his back pointing toward the sky. Sounds cruel, right? And what makes it even more unsettling is that even though some irregularities were found and the main suspect later died in what was ruled as an apparent suicide, the case was eventually closed. But something about what happened that night still feels a little off. So as their first research assignment, the Mystery Research Club is sent to Narumizawa to investigate this 30-year-old cold case. We play as a first-year college student named Doppo Akazawa who has just joined the club. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because unlike the investigators from 30 years ago, Doppo has something they never had: the ability to travel back into the past. Which means this might actually be our chance to finally uncover what really happened that night. And I think that's what makes this case feel even more intriguing. Because we're not just looking for clues, we're literally stepping into the past to find them. So the real question is, will we be able to find the true culprit? And the way the game presents this mystery is honestly what makes it even more interesting. The moment you start the game, you're immediately greeted with a cinematic intro. And I'm not even exaggerating, it truly feels like you're watching an anime and slowly being pulled into its world. At first, I honestly expected the game to feel really heavy and intense because, well, it's a murder mystery. But surprisingly, it's not that intense all the time. And I think a big reason for that is the Mystery Research Club itself, because their dynamic is just chaotic. First, we have Kagero, who is basically a mystery maniac. Then there's Alice, who's incredibly smart and sharp, and somehow always ends up making Kagero mad whenever she beats him in deductions, which is honestly so funny to watch. And then there's Kotaro, who is, let's just say, very unserious and mostly focused on girls. Yeah, that type of fanboy. And finally, we have our protagonist Toppo, who's calm, observant, and has really sharp instincts, so he kind of balances out the chaos in the group. And I didn't expect this, but their interactions actually made me smile more than I thought they would. It really feels like you're just watching a chaotic group of friends trying to solve a murder case together. And what makes it even better is how the game presents all of this. It uses a lot of comic-style visual effects. You know those dramatic effects you usually see in manga panels? The game uses them a lot. and it just makes every interaction feel more alive and expressive. And it's not just the main cast either. Even the side characters have their own little moments. Like there's this one character who gets ridiculously jealous of how bouncy Alice's skin looks compared to hers. And the way she reacts to it is just... it caught me so off guard. I actually laughed.
何この子、肌ピッチピチじゃない。ムカつく。あたしだってね、あんたくらいの年はもうピッチピチのムッチムチだったんだからね。なぎさ、あたしの日焼け止め、その子に使うんじゃないよ。紫外線にさらして焼き尽くしておしまい。
But what I really like is that even though the game can be funny, it also knows exactly when to be serious. And when it does, it really pulls you into the mystery. Like, it makes you question who actually killed Suryo Uchida, what really happened that day, and if the main suspect wasn't the real culprit, then who is? So far, there are 5 suspects in this case that you'll gradually learn more about as you play. You're also given detailed case files including the suspects and their connections to each other, presented through this diagram that makes it so much easier to understand what's going on and how everyone is related. I think my absolute favorite thing about this game is honestly the presentation. Like the animation, it is so good though. It actually reminds me a bit of Bustafellows, but this feels even more animated and dynamic. Even the way they present the investigation and analysis, I was literally like, wait, what? The camera movements, the transitions, I was genuinely in awe. I don't think I've seen something like this before in a game. They really went all out with the animation, like they even included walking animations, and even the way they present the murder case itself feels so polished and engaging. You know when something is presented with really high quality animation and smooth transitions? Yeah, it feels exactly like that. The visuals and the level of detail they put into this game are honestly kind of crazy. It genuinely makes you feel like you're watching an anime because when a chapter ends, it actually shows you a credit scene, and when a new chapter starts, it feels like an opening sequence. So it really feels like you're watching an anime unfold right in front of your eyes, but at the same time, you're also playing it and controlling it. And I just think that is such a cool and unique way to present a mystery game. But that's not even the best part. As I mentioned earlier, our protagonist has the ability to look into the past. So how does it actually work? Whenever Doppo sees this violet haze, that's the sign that he can go back into the past. He first started developing this ability about 2 years ago, and when he uses it, the past appears in this low-resolution visual style, which I think is such a unique touch. And when we enter the past, we don't just observe it, we actually experience it from someone else's point of view. So we get to see their memories, investigate what really happened, and sometimes even discover completely unexpected clues or see certain events in a totally different light. But of course, going into the past isn't as easy as it sounds. We only have a limited amount of time, so we need to be really careful with the actions we take. And honestly, every time I uncover something new from the past, it genuinely makes my heart beat faster. Like, it really feels like you're getting closer to the truth. And because of that, we also need to pay close attention to everything that happens in the past. Because after that, there's something called the comments analysis. This is where things get really interesting. We need to guide conversations and interviews with witnesses or suspects based on the clues we found earlier. But of course, we can just tell them about our power, right? So we have to be really careful with how we respond and what we say. And also, using this power isn't exactly subtle. Every time Doppo goes into the past, he literally freezes in real time for a few seconds, with his eyes rolling up. Like, that's actually so creepy. So yeah, we definitely don't want people getting suspicious. And it's even funnier because there's this detective, Samada, who actually tries to copy him. Like, she rolls her eyes up too to follow what Doppo is doing, and I couldn't take that seriously. Now, during the analysis, you'll need to choose the correct dialogue options. Each correct choice gives you points, but don't worry too much if you make a mistake. You can always rewind or rely on autosave, since the game usually saves right before the analysis begins. And after that, you'll receive an interim report from your professor, which I honestly found pretty interesting. And it doesn't stop there. Aside from analysis, there's also investigations and exploration aspect in the game. Starting from chapter 3, you can explore the town, talk to different characters, collect items like keychains and cards, and even play some retro-style minigames. I think this is really nice for players who enjoy taking their time and exploring more of the world. Personally though, I was way more focused on the main story, so I just wanted to move forward as fast as possible. But apparently, from what I found on the official site, you can also uncover extra information that isn't revealed in the main story just by talking to people around town. So, you might find additional clues or hidden details if you explore more. Which means, yeah, maybe it is worth taking your time and exploring a bit. But if I really have to say, I think the most charming part of this game is definitely the interrogation or comments analysis and the whole going into the past mechanic. It honestly makes me really excited because you slowly start uncovering the truth piece by piece, and the more you learn, especially through the past, the more everything starts to feel questionable. Like what actually happened that day and who can you really trust? There's just something really exciting about discovering the truth from the past, something that at the moment only you get to see. It feels kind of special, you know? And not just that, as you move into later chapters, you also start uncovering something beyond the murder case itself. Something that feels like it might be even bigger than it first seems. And I have to say, this game is really good at ending chapters. Like seriously, there were moments where I just sat there like, wait, what just happened? Especially with the BGM, it makes everything feel so eerie and intense. I actually got goosebumps. And I have to mention the end of chapter 4, I was literally like, goosebumps. Who was that? Okay, I wouldn't say anything anymore. As of the time I'm recording this, I'm currently on my way to chapter 6, and even now, I still can't fully predict what's going to happen, who's the real culprit. I do have my own guesses, but I'm still not fully convinced, and I really like that feeling, because it makes me want to keep playing. At some point, I realized I wasn't just going through the story anymore. I was actually trying to figure things out myself. And I think that's what makes this game feel so engaging. It's not just something you watch unfold, it's something you actively think about. From my perspective as a murder mystery fan, I would say this is a really solid game. It's the kind of game that slowly pulls you in, and before you realize it, you're already invested in finding the truth. But of course, one of the most important things for me in a mystery game is the revelation and how the story concludes. Since I haven't finished the game yet, I will share my full thoughts on that later in a pinned comment once I complete it. So if you're curious, you might want to check back from time to time. But what about you? What do you think about the overall premise of this game? Is this something you would want to try next? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy story-rich mystery games that keep you on the edge of your seat, and maybe even include a bit of dangerous romance, you might want to check out this video right here. That's all for today's video. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!